Hello and welcome to episode 15 of the Art Department podcast. It's me again, Urschel here, and on the other side of the world, Emmanuel Shiu. And we're going to continue our inspiration series for this week. So last week, in the part one, we talked about photography and kind of our history with photography and our experience and the artists that inspire us. And this week in part two, we're going to take a closer look at design and our design inspiration and how we use it. So this is going to include a lot of, I think, architectural things, car design, and also kind of, everyday items, furniture, product design. Also, like you can see here in the background, some like interesting cultural, I think, influence.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we'll try. It's not design in the sense of like very strictly like other designers, but I think everything kind of in that whole area that kind of found its way into our brains and inspires and informs us.
And you'll see how just very specifically some of this stuff actually inspires what we do. Because when I looked at some of your architectural references, you can see it in your work, and you can apply it, and it's interesting.
Yeah, exactly. So you can already see in the background. We're going to again continue to collect this kind of stuff on Pinterest for everybody to share, and of course for all our followers, thank you so much already. And for those people who follow us, they can already see what kind of topic is going to come in the next week, because we just collect it here, and it's free for everybody to see, and it's also interesting for us here to see each other's references, because we don't actually talk about this before. We kind of collect our stuff, and then we'll meet here and discuss this. So it's interesting. I want to know more about what Emmanuel has collected here.
The truth is, I don't hear many people sharing the references, period.
It's a secret, right? It's like,
and I would be like, well, why is this a secret? There's no secret here. It's just this is inspirational stuff. I mean, it's not mine to begin with.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I think for me it comes back to this famous book I wrote. I wrote, I read from Austin Kleon talking about. I forgot what the title is, but basically it was about. There's nothing new really creatively done that comes out of nowhere, right? There's nothing new that comes out of a vacuum. Everything that we design and create is based on other people's work and other people's references and what has come before, right? And when it looks new to somebody else, it just means that the viewer is not really aware of the references, the inspiration that the artist has looked at. So it might look new to you, but it's just because you don't know where I pulled that information from. So yeah, there's really no harm, I think, in sharing I think information and references, because I mean, if you're on a project, right, you're gonna get a big folder with all the references and all the inspiration that the production designer, the director, the art director has been looking at. So they share that with you. And so I feel like it's like, yeah, maybe some people will say, oh, this is all my secret. This is my secret sauce. Nobody else. So I can rip off all from that artist and nobody will ever know because that artist is completely unknown. But there's really no point in it. So we're very happy to, I think, share what kind of motivates us, because I mean, other people will resonate. Maybe some of the stuff here will resonate with other people, and some of it won't, right? Maybe not everybody's into furniture. I mean, but still, I can share, since again, it's not mine to keep, right? So that's a good thing to say.
And there's absolutely no secret sauce here. I like that, because a lot of people want to sort of take something and to say, well, I'm gonna, it's what you do with,
exactly.
because you didn't come up with architecture. None of us did. It's just, but you look at different kinds of architecture and you can be inspired. And to learn about it and how it's made. And for those people that maybe first time listening here, I mean, Jan's coming from an architectural background.
Well, just purely by personal choice, yeah. Not that I studied anything like that. So
Sure, but I mean, you've been interested in
yeah.
architecture for a long time. I studied interior architecture at school, and so I had to go through the program doing that kind of stuff, and so I'm of course interested. I mean, I never when I found out how difficult the interior design or interior architecture world is, I just said, no, I don't want to do that. I interned, and I was, this is back in the day of, blueprints, drafting
Oh my God,
blueprints.
yeah.
No computer, no CAD. Well, there was CAD, but it was still like blueprint, and then you print it out. It's all called those blue lines and stuff. And I was the worst. I would constantly get the lines wrong, had to redo it.
Oh my
So
goodness.
I didn't, it was really not something I wanted. And then I'm lucky that the school put me in touch with this, multimedia thing. But anyway, yeah, it's great to know that, it's inspiration that you should always, be willing to share, because, how you interpret it is how you can make it unique, I think.
Exactly, and how you mix
I
it
try
up
to look at it. Yeah.
with other
You want
things.
to start going through some of it?
Yeah.
You want to go just in order, or do
Oh
you
no,
want
no. I
to?
mean, you can if you can see my screen, so we can
I mean,
just start with anything. Maybe start with one of yours, and then we'll just
well,
bounce back and
I
forward.
think maybe just go in order. Then it's easy. Then we know what we've hit.
Do you start at the architecture up here?
Yeah. I mean, I
Okay.
just the way we've laid it out, or the way I've laid it out, because I figure, anything starts with that episode design will be design underscore whatever, and the photography will be it's just easier to
No, that's
have
good.
it all grouped.
Exactly. Let's look into here for now. Okay, that
Yeah, so I mean, some of these folders, I just started them, and I
yeah.
haven't like completely, so this is just, I've always been a big fan of the Sydney Opera House,
Oh
and
yeah, it's
just like
fantastic.
some really cool interiors. So if you look at the one that's all the way to the right, if you
Yeah.
click on that one, like, that's it's a space made for prayer and meditation, but it's not really like a church. It's like a thing that's like a neighboring, like it says here, cancer center. And I can just imagine being in there, and the kind of mood and feeling it invokes, just even looking at the image and not even thinking about being in there, right? I mean, you're sick, or someone's sick, and you're in there, and you can come into a space and actually feel good. Is, to me, it's like, that's why some of these things are my inspirations. I don't know how you feel about stuff like this, but
Oh, so you have. I mean, it's not only about the strictly speaking the materials and the light and everything, but it's also about the intention of the place and what kind of
yeah,
feeling is supposed to evoke.
well, the intention, but it's also in the end, how I feel in it. Like how I can imagine feeling in it, and that's why when I make what I make now, the images, the concept, whatever, I want to feel like. I want you to feel what I feel. And I'm much more about feel and stuff like that, and much less about, well, what's this made out of, and the juxtaposition of materials. So, honestly, I know, but I don't care as much. Like light, feel, most important for me. Well, how about you?
Yeah, so I mean, for me, I'm looking at of course your stuff, and also I mean I thought a lot about it when I chose my the things I want to share here, and I think what I tend to, I mean, because there's a lot more, like there's tons more, and I had to really filter it down, and I think the ones I wanted to share are really the ones I managed to experience myself, and I mean some of these.
Go to one of those. Go to one of those.
Yeah,
Let's talk
and I
about
mean
it.
Sydney Opera House, I was there, so that's cool in itself. But I chose some of these because I experienced them first, and then I looked up like where they're from and who the architect is. Let me see which one would be good. There's actually a few, right? So I mean, again, Japan is a big influence on me, and I'll just jump through a few of these here and there. So Kenzu Tang is one of the most famous architects in Japan, and I think everybody who walked around Shibuya and Harajuku will notice on the way there is the old Olympic Stadium. I think it's the swim hall. I'm not entirely sure, but this
How did I miss that?
This crazy structure here, and I'm sure there's a few more images here that you can see, and it's quite striking. That's one of the architects, and he has done a lot more. We're coming back to the churches actually. I think churches are an incredible. There's actually a lot of really interesting designs being done, and actually I want to search for one that I found by accident, which is actually where my mom lives in that town. And again, I could experience that place firsthand, and I think that's such an important aspect of architecture.
What place is this?
That's a pilgrimage cathedral in the northwestern part of Germany, and it is an incredibly, I mean, it's some might call it ugly. It's like this massive concrete structure, but actually if you go all around the world, there's so many churches where they have really progressive, interesting, outlandish designs, and to visit these is actually interesting because they have always a very different interpretation of.
Can you click on one of them so we can see?
I mean, it looks really.
Oh, okay, I know this place.
It's really crazy. Yeah, I mean, I've been there I've been there a couple of times, so it's really quite incredible. Again, how this place. We
definitely need to put this back on and put it on the list.
Yeah, I will make a separate folder. I mean, it's quite incredible how this looks. And another place. I mean, I think this one you might. This is actually where I took the photo. The one down the escalator shaft. It's a building in Osaka by a famous Japanese architect. This is the Umeda Sky building, and there's a viewing platform on top, and it's quite. It is, again, it's like, is it pretty? I don't know, but it's part of.
Oh, it speaks to you though.
Yeah, exactly. And this is the JR station in Kyoto.
It's funny though. I mean, because when I look at this, I'm like, I could picture your stuff having similarity to this. Yeah, it's interesting because that's the point of having this, so that people can see where
exactly
some of our stuff comes from. You know.
So I mean, there's again, it's experiencing these, being there is quite important, and again, I mean, it's difficult to go out now and experience this, but. For me, this stuff is so tightly connected to, again, like you said, how this place makes you feel and kind of emotions that it evokes through materials, through lighting, and to understand that it's just not enough to look at these.
Yeah, I mean, you know, like I'll tell you that if you click on Tadeo Ando, so this architect was introduced to me way early when I was studying in school, and his stuff just vibe with me because he's such most of these architects really have a lot of thoughts, and they think very deeply about how nature and buildings coincide, your experience every step of the way, right? All the way from entry to the interior to the exterior. I mean, it just blows my mind what he comes up with, and I have his books, and you look at the books, and it's like, my God, you feel like you are in there, and it really makes you feel something, and like, you know, he is my all-time favorite.
Definitely.
Architect for me, and I know you know him for sure.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
But if you click on the first image on the left, like. That's just entering that one space, you know, like all architects are thinking about different seasons, different lighting, how the light plays, how the shadow plays. Everything is thought of. And when I was looking through all this, it really made me think. A lot of people give us assignments, right? And they're like, hey, so give me some sketches by tomorrow. Here's some of my inspirations. And you really sit down and in the end you go, like a day for me to come up with something new, because a lot of people don't understand these guys they're thinking about the whole experience, the surroundings. Like, are you in a forest? Are you in, where are you? And they're thinking about all this stuff, and you can't put a time on that.
Yep.
And I feel like sometimes you're just, well, I mean, this might be just a rant, but I mean, it's like sometimes
no, I totally
put more
agree.
thought into the architecture side of, instead of just, okay, that's a cool building, I'm going to put them together, I'm going to make something else. Like, think about why that building exists like that. Read up on it. I mean, it will only take you an hour or so to go, okay, who's Tadeo Ando or who's Frank Lloyd Wright and why it's important, and then you can have something for yourself, because then you can decide, okay, my concept is, it's in this forest. Okay, so, and I want there to, this guy who owns the house needs to have this and that, and he really, really likes to, merge everything together. I mean, that gives you a lot of impetus for making good design because you're trying to solve a problem. But a lot of times I just see that people are just kind of taking 4 buildings and kind of putting them, on in the advent of all the kit bash, right? It's so easy, right? You take whatever kit bash build. I've done it.
Yeah, of course. You have to. There's no other choice because you can't finish it. Yeah.
Exactly. And I'm just like, sometimes I'm just like, please just give me a couple more days. And it took them years to build that thing. Not even build, just to design that thing.
Exactly.
I mean, what do you feel about Tadeo? Do you like Tadeo?
Yeah, one of my favorites, definitely. Yeah, I mean, I love going through bookstores and just getting like because he has just so many huge coffee table books and just go through them.
Mine is like this big. Do you have some, right?
No, I don't actually have any because they're too heavy and too big.
Well, those I really highly suggest getting them, because these images do no justice to his genius of how he thinks about the space. So I think if people are interested, look him up, of course, but also really
definitely
go get the book if you like his work.
I mean, if you have the chance to visit some of these places, definitely go for it.
Yes, for sure.
These are incredible.
Yeah, I mean, you can go through some of our pins. I mean, we're not going to go through every pin. I'll just pin some stuff that inspires me. But
exactly,
I think it's also, this is part of why we did the podcast, is to also talk about like how you can make it better. How to use some of this stuff. Why don't you take one?
I mean, this is another one of my favorite architects, and now he got to even more fame because he did the new Olympic Stadium, and his thing is all about kind of putting like how do I say like combining traditional Japanese woodwork techniques with
that stuff is amazing. I went to the Meiji Shrine and I went up to look at it, and it's just flawless.
Exactly.
I mean, that's the one thing with the Japanese people. I'm always going to be I love Japan because of just the care they take for every single thing that they do.
That is part of my other folder where I'm going to talk about that. Okay. Yeah, so it's funny that you mentioned that. It's funny that you mentioned that. But I think this is a really good example of because there's always
click on it.
There's always the I think often we are tasked with taking inspiration from something historical or classical or whatever and try to modernize it. And I think this is a very tasteful and well executed interpretation of
Yeah.
A traditional, again, building, but modernized. I want to actually pin that if I can find that, right? So you guys will continue to update these, and yeah, I mean, actually, that is a museum in Tokyo, which is amazing, which I recommend people to go look at, because it's also designed by him, and I totally forgot the name, but it's in Aoyama, and it's quite amazing. And also he designed a hotel, a hotel interior, and I actually stayed there, and it's quite. It's quite, again, incredible to experience this architecture. So I'd recommend everybody to go to these places and experience it, and really seek out. I mean, in every city I travel to, I look for buildings done by famous architects, just to visit them and experience them, right? So
sorry, go ahead.
It's okay, but so if you have a chance to, I don't know, like experience, like, I don't know, Guggenheim Museum or the Disney Concert Hall, all these things, right? I'm pretty sure that if you live in a somewhat bigger city, there are some iconic architectural pieces, because I mean that's really what, I don't know, mayors and politicians want. They want reasons for people to visit their city, right? So I'm sure you can find some, but I mean, again, in some of these will vibe with you a lot more than others. I mean, I have some famous architects who I just don't like. Like, honestly, like Frank Gehry, to me, I mean, it's cool, but it doesn't speak to me at all. So, but that's
Frank Gehry doesn't really speak to me either.
Yeah. So it's again, it's a personal choice. I'm sure there's plenty of people who just adore him, right? And I mean, for me, like if I may jump to, I mean, Frank Lloyd Wright is actually another one of my favorites. And I added, because you started the collection, but I added some, because of course there's Falling Water, which is probably the most famous residential building in the world.
Well, and that's a good example of what I was talking about. Because the genius of Falling Water is how he incorporated the building into the surrounding, so that he didn't disturb the surrounding, and that he looked at how the light fell in all the seasons and how he would make it all work together to be basically a masterpiece. Like, I think it's like a historical monument, basically.
It's a museum now, right?
Yeah. And it's, if you can go for sure. Like I really agree with what Jan said. Like, if you can experience these places, do it. And the funny thing is, I haven't yet to experience Falling Water, or really I mean, I have
pretty hard to get to.
Yeah. I'm not going to go in a wheelchair. So, but I will say that I have experienced, like in Marin, there's a piece of architecture that he did. So I've been there, and when you are in a space that somebody really thought so much about, it really makes a difference. Yeah. Just even like going to the Louvre and looking at what Ian Pei did, his pyramid there. And it caused a lot of controversy, right? Like, that's people fantastic. Were like, this is horrible, and how dare you, this the Louvre and all this stuff.
But now you can't imagine it without it, no?
Exactly. And I think the reason why he did it, there were reasons, and albeit personal, but I think that there was a juxtaposition of new and old, and how do you get with the times? But I think that sometimes these things, like, if you're out of ideas for something and you look at that, don't just look at it, well, is this some triangle here? No, it's about old and new. So then maybe you can take that idea and put it to your own thing and make that as just as a thought, and then create something that's for you that works. But I think that's why all these things are around you. Like, if you live in New York, go to the Guggenheim for sure.
Yeah. I mean, New York is chock full of things.
I mean, it was between the Guggenheim and the Met for me. So I chose the Met because I wanted to see art. I wanted to see old art. And that was my choice. But next time I go, I definitely want to see the Guggenheim. But have you been?
No, actually not. I haven't been. I haven't traveled extensively to the U.S. So I haven't really seen much, to be honest.
But I did see you.
That's true.
Have dinner.
That's more important than museums.
So let's go to the Japanese folder of things we were going to talk about.
Actually, one thing I wanted to mention in terms of experience of architecture. So Frank Lloyd Wright is actually highly revered in Japan, and he did a couple of buildings there, and most famously the Imperial Hotel, which has been demolished in the 1960s. So that goes to say that architecture.
You can see it bigger. Can you click on that? Does it go to
maybe I have another picture that is bigger. Oh. No, not really. But you guys can look it up. So the old Imperial Hotel in Tokyo was designed by him, and again, it was demolished, and that goes to say that architecture is not eternal. So if you have a chance, you need to actually visit these places while they're still around. And there's actually a replica of this that they moved the lobby piece by piece into like an open air museum. I forgot where it is, but I mean the rest of the hotel you can't experience anymore. But the one piece that is still there is still in Tokyo, which is a school. So I don't know if you can actually visit it, but it's a bit on a smaller scale, but you can still see it.
That really reminds me of some of your stuff.
Yeah. This exactly right. So it's a really really cool place, and you can even he took he's very famous for designing every single piece. He even designs the furniture in his houses.
Yeah.
So,
absolutely.
But not many architects do that, right? So even the chairs, everything is like everything works together. But just I think maybe just a small. Or actually, maybe we'll talk about the furniture stuff later on, since we have some product design.
I'm curious to hear what you have to say about the Japan stuff.
Yeah. So that one doesn't go really into like architecture, so we'll kind of leave the architectural stuff behind.
We don't want to just do an architecture.
Exactly. But I mean, it's a big part. I think because we're both focusing a lot on architectural environment designs, right? So we're not like the creature design people. Those people's design folder probably looks very different. But so for me, there's we've talked about this before, and I always had a big admiration for Japan and have lived there and everything. So it left a really lasting impression on me in many respects. So this ranges from just purely the architectural thing, but also I think into I don't know what you want to call it. So I collected some reference here that does not only extend to, of course, architectural stuff, but I mean, of course, again, Tadao Ando, right? He's coming back, but I mean, this kind of stuff just to me is just amazing.
I mean, it's funny that you say that because so I come from Hong Kong. I grew up in Hong Kong, and in Hong Kong we are. Primarily obviously British, right? Because it was part of the British colony. But the thing is, also we were very, very pro-Japan, and we had a lot of, we grew up with Japanese cartoons. We grew up with Japanese food, and one of the things that I remember the most is Japanese design in graphic design.
Yeah.
Like that stuff is genius.
Yeah,
and
I have that here.
That's the only thing, and that got me to a shop called Sanrio. I was a kid, what Sanrio?
Yeah.
So it's just this kid. It's this place where you have a lot of like pencil boxes and
Hello
stuff.
Kitty.
It's
the company behind Hello Kitty for people who don't know.
And of course, what's the guy doing in Hello Kitty store? But I mean, all my, my siblings were female, and they're, but the packaging was so good.
Yeah.
Everything like that they could package a piece of crap and you'd want to buy it. It's just so good.
Yeah.
So that was my first thing with Japanese design was the graphics, and they have a lot of T-shirts with like
Gosh,
just complete garbage,
English
garbled up
sentences,
English, but it looks freaking cool. Everything from my fashion was all Japanese. I'd be wearing like Big John jeans. I mean, I don't know if you know Big John, but that sounds really kind of stupid. But Big John is a big Japanese brand, in Japan. But I would wear all the clothes. I mean, it was a very big thing because we had all the Japanese not supermarket, the stores, department stores in Hong Kong.
Yeah, exactly. Right. Yeah, that's why I said actually when I was looking at your photography that it had just this really, like on your early photography, that it had this very strong like 80s Japan vibe to it in terms of what you were wearing and the kind of mood. Exactly.
And our idols were like, we mimicked Japanese songs and Japanese idols. I mean, what they did was considered cool.
Yeah,
and you can
definitely
see from all your references is like a lot of it is the graphic design.
Yeah. So that's part of it, right? So I wanted to also highlight though that it's not only the design part that do it, but even the everyday kind of thing that you see in Japan. So I have like, again, architecture here that is obviously well done and modern, so you can see that, but also just everyday kind of like street scenery. There's something about how Japanese people take care of their own place, and how it looks to the outside. And I mean, it's often said that Tokyo is ugly from like a city point of view because it's like an endless sea of concrete, right, as far as the eye can see. But on a street level, it's absolutely beautiful because of how much care people put into what the house looks like. And I mean, it's not like, wow, this is like the most well-maintained kind of thing, but there's a certain aspect of I don't know, there's a certain aspect of ratios and relationships of shapes. And it's not like I want to live there, to be honest, but there's something about just the general sense of what looks good. And I mean, this stretches to anything. So for me, whether it's that, again, graphic design is a packaging design is a huge thing. So I mean, if people are interested in this, I can highly recommend a book called Wrapping Culture. I mean, it's something more about society and how wrapping does not only extend in forms of gift giving and packaging design, but also in terms of how the society works. So I mean, there's stuff you read in university, so it might be a bit dry for a lot of people, but I had to read it.
I mean, I went. So I love Japan, and I grew up all this stuff. I'd never been to Japan until like 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Yeah. So when I went, it was already, I'm an adult and I've already been through all this design stuff. And I went there, and you know what I found, to me, that was the most impressive was that I was beginning to say this, was that everybody did everything with they cared about what they did. Now, this could be the person laying brick. The bricks are perfect.
Yeah, exactly.
It wouldn't be the same in other places. They were perfect because they chose to do whatever job they do it with perfection. And that's something that I really appreciate. I really appreciate it because I have yet to ever see that again.
Yep, that's quite special. And I mean, this is why I have like other stuff here, like generally the cleanliness is crazy. The organization of things. I
went into the handicapped bathroom. I was like, I could just live in here. Because that's the one place that I've been in all the countries, including America, that I never had an issue going into a handicapped bathroom because they were so conscientious and polite that they wouldn't take up that bathroom.
Wow, yeah.
I never, ever had a problem. The only time that there was someone in there was because they were supposed to be in there.
Yeah, exactly.
That's it. and that has never ever happened.
Yeah, exactly.
Ever.
So like it's interesting you mentioned packaging design. I mean, I picked up some items here that
I'm
are
going off in a
quite
tangent.
special here, right? So the
Yeah,
Japanese are obsessed with uh, like specialty items. So there is like a special for autumn, for Christmas, of course,
Mm-hmm.
for spring, seasonal, regional specialties are just absolute revered. So and they all need special packaging, and so for limited edition, I don't know, beer and water and whatever, right? So it's not like it all looks like that, right? But even if you go to convenience stores, they're just so impeccably
But just even
organized.
look at how that's packed
Yeah,
right
it's
there.
the
It's
packaging, the colors, that these
but
things
I
are
mean,
fully stocked all
nothing
the
is
time.
like askew or
Yeah.
like fallen down. I mean, it's
I
just
mean, if you go to the shop in Germany or in the US, it's a mess. It's
it's a
like, oh,
mess.
I don't want to
Nobody
go shopping
cares.
there. But it's interesting that you mentioned the care that people have. And I mean, if you look at, let's go to fashion in a bit, but if you look at, so this is a really interesting story I read about. So there's always a lot of construction in a lot of the subways and but the difference is that if you in the UK, I mean the metro the tube is always under construction and it's a mess. It's like awful. You don't want to be there. But in Japan, it's actually even the construction sites are perfectly wrapped. It's quite
Oh,
weird. Like there can't be any noise or dust or anything coming out, right? So and they're really sorry about the inconvenience that it causes to people. But then it can sometimes get a bit confusing when certain areas are closed off or you can't go through. So there was a story about this worker who works in the subway area, and he started making signs only with tape, and he devised this graphic layout system so that he could make it more easily readable and could produce it with tape. So they all follow like a graphic design grid, and he made so many of those. And I mean, these are all done with like just normal like tape, and he made this beautiful like layout system, and he made all these signs everywhere around the station, and these look incredible. And this is just one of the examples of the kind of care that the people there take of the, I mean, of course, not everybody does that, right? So he's an exception, but I mean, you do find quite a lot of people like this is all taped. It's crazy. Like he's like day and night there.
that's a cool story. Yeah, I really like that.
It's like I'm like mind blown, right? And so all these aspects stretch to like product design, and I mean I love buying this kind of stuff just because it looks so cool. And even the layout of the stations, the graphic design of the stations, the care that goes into public service announcements, and the little stories they're trying to tell, you wouldn't find this anywhere in the West. Like they're making like little stories that are easy to understand for anybody without words, right? And these are from the Tokyo Metro, right? So that companies are in general a lot more open for interesting kind of thing, and the general level of inventiveness and interesting stuff that you see there is just quite incredible. And
Well,
I
I
mean
mean, I
this,
think
yeah.
your point on inventiveness, I wanted to make a quick thing about
Yeah.
that because, you're, I think a lot of people are looking at this and go, oh, yeah, that's great graphics and stuff. And a lot of people would just take it, right? Take it and put it in their sort of concept design UI scene or whatever, right? A lot of people do that because, again, you don't have all the time to do all the graphic design and, all the font. But I would say try to understand why it works, like that story you just gave of, the guy putting the tape. So that makes it an interesting look, right? I mean, you're having this tape, that's on a grid, which reminds me of Sid Mead, because he, when he designed like something like Tron, he actually started from the font and started from, I'm going to work with these, I think 40 degrees or some kind of degree angles, and I'm going to use that throughout the font. I'm going to throughout the design. It's all the same angle.
Okay.
And so he's thinking this stuff through. And I know it's a lot easier sometimes to say, well, I need some UI, so I'm going to grab this and grab that. But take that and take the core essence of it and then use it, but understand the essence of why it was done and how it was done, and then put your own spin and your own way to it. And I think that's, you can also invent stuff with the help, because the reason why I always come back and I want to say this stuff is I also want people to know, since we're talking about our inspirations, is how to use inspiration and not just sort of copy the inspiration, but what's behind it. Like that story is awesome. Like that tape, have you actually seen one of them up close?
No, I only heard about this after my latest trip, so I didn't. And he's only in one particular station where he is stationed, and I didn't go there. So, but next time I'm there, I definitely want to see if there's more of his stuff still around.
Okay.
I mean, he got quite some media attention, so I'm sure that.
So this is just recent.
I don't know. I saw the news recent. I don't know for how long he has been doing this, right? But I'll try to find. I think I have still an article about him, so it's pretty interesting. And the last thing is, of course, fashion is huge in Japan. Everybody is so incredibly well dressed. It puts everything to shame. But so you will notice even construction workers have incredible, like, kind of almost like uniform like things. So they always have these super baggy pants and generally look really like nobody else in the world, no other construction worker looks that fancy. But this extends to even the fashion, the high street fashion. So I took some examples here of Yohji Yamamoto, who's a very famous designer, fashion designer. And I mean, you can kind of see some of the commonalities, right? I mean, he's drawing from workers' clothing. He's drawing from traditional Japanese clothing, kimono-style cut patterns, and that kind of stuff. So again, it comes back to the modernizing traditional things and making it timeless and really, really interesting and desirable, right? So anyway, that was the last bit. There's some interior design stuff. Again, the Japanese is a huge market for books and physical media, and of course they're struggling like everywhere else, right? Amazon is ruining everything, but how they are reinventing bookstores is actually also a very interesting, I think, usability design exercise in like lateral thinking on what can we do to revive bookstores instead of just whining about that book sales are in decline, right? And they have some very cool examples of what they have done, and again, things to experience and visit and analyze of what's happening. So anyway, let's jump to something, some of your stuff. You have, what is the Japanese toy thing, if you want to stay with Japan?
I mean, just to click on it, I can just, I grew up, a lot of how I see mechs and all this kind of stuff. I grew up with Mazingers, was what I grew up with. I actually watched the Japanese, with subtitles, TV show. And this is the I didn't Star Wars was a little later. I played with that, but this was my main influences. Cool. So I was drawing this when I was in high school. Or not high school, elementary school, sorry. And so these are my first memories, right? And they still permeate in everything I do. So this, when sometimes I get lost for ideas, some people go to Sydney, that, but I go back to here so that I can remember what it was like when I was young. Right. And this kind of stuff reminds me of, okay, I remember. I can bring back some of that into what I do. Right. If that makes sense. Yeah, so, that's why I put it in here.
Crucial, yeah.
It's just for people, everybody has whatever they grew up with and whatever they vibe with. But for me, I'm just saying, okay, this is what I vibe with.
Yeah, exactly right. I mean, it's I think
most people don't know Mazinger. I mean,
yeah,
it's
yeah,
just
yeah.
crazy.
I think you have to be of a certain. I mean, I think people here in Singapore also have a similar experience from their childhood because again, those kind of cartoons came over, right? Rather than very very US centric stuff. But I think the lesson here is. I think we can. It's very easy once you worked on more projects and you definitely you're generally not happy with how things are moving and in what direction they're moving with remakes and blah blah blah, and you get jaded and cynical and you kind of like I don't like to do this anymore. And I think it helps once in a while to reconnect with the earliest source of what made you interested in this industry and this job in the first place, even if it's something as early on as like the childhood memories and what kind of I mean you can't it's hard to say that these kind of comics really got you into concept art, right? Because you didn't know what concept art was back then. But again,
No, I didn't.
it's funny, it's interesting to trace these things back to their origins and reconnect the dots when you're a bit older. And there's definitely a lot of value in doing that because
Yeah,
it
so
can
that's
get
why
you
I went
motivated
there.
again, right?
Yeah,
So
no,
that's good.
absolutely.
That's good.
But that's why, yeah, that's why that folder's
Cool.
in there. But I think, we can go to like say, like, uh, here we go with just go to, um, go to design Formula One. So I'm a big car guy,
Right.
racing guy, and I mean, I used to race cars, back in the day. So I mean, I'm really into cars and their heritage, their design, both performance and aesthetics. And I love Formula One, and I've been watching it for many, many, many years, and I appreciate it because it's the highest form of sort of formula for racing design.
Yeah, performance
They
and
try to
everything.
implement the latest design within the rules and all this kind of stuff. So I wanted to show how some of these fins, because of the aerofoil,
Right.
how it's inspiring me. So you can click on the first Formula One image, which is the second image there.
Yeah.
Yeah. How some of these foils are. You
Crazy.
can go back.
Yeah, it's I mean it's
Click on
interesting.
that. Yeah.
Yeah. It's interesting from a design
Like you
point of
see on
view.
the foils on the bottom right,
Yeah,
the
these
bottom. Okay,
I
so
think there
go
was another
back.
image where it was here. You can kind of see it here.
Yeah. So go back and then click on the first image.
Oh,
The
the
my
one, yeah,
yeah.
yours.
And then just click on it.
I don't know if I can. How can I make this bigger? I have no idea.
I have no freaking idea. But when I clicked on it before, it went straight to a bigger page. But
Oh, I don't know. Maybe somebody can tell me how to.
yeah, I don't know why mine went to a bigger
I
page,
have no idea.
but I mean, no, it's really hard to see. Well, maybe can you just click on our station really quick and go to by profile so I can just, because I'm just trying to show a point.
Yeah.
So yeah, first image there. So this is not finished design yet, but this is one of my latest ships, and I'm working on the aerofoil idea,
Right.
and I'm incorporating that, but it's not done. But I wanted to put it in an illustration to see how it kind of works, and
Right.
I'm working it out now. But I'm also not working it out in a way where I just want it to look pretty. I really want it to feel like it can work. Although I'm not an engineer, so I probably it won't be but
Yeah. Yeah.
it'll feel enough that it'll work. So I just wanted to show where I got my inspirations from
Exactly. That's a good
and
point.
how I'm taking that and not just ripping it off and putting a set of foils there, but trying to make something out of it. So that's why I put that in there. I really just want to make people see, because I think it's easy to say, but how is it really applied, to me? So if you go to design cars, So these are the cars that move me, through the years,
Oh
right?
yeah, let's
And
run.
and most of it is, I mean, the Countach, the Lamborghini is the first car that I loved, and it was
Yeah.
the first car that I really drew, and this was the car that made me quit drawing because I couldn't draw it.
Yeah, look at this. It's like madness.
No, I mean I couldn't draw it because I
Oh,
wasn't
okay.
skilled.
But still, it's like
Wasn't because the car was hard or not. It was just I couldn't draw, and I was like ah. But design wise, these are all icons, and you will have your own. But I mean,
yeah,
these
exactly. I mean, I'm
even now I look at it, they move me.
yeah, but I think that they're rightfully so like design icons, right? That have stood the test of time. I mean, I'm not a big car guy. I'm more like, okay, this brings me from A to B, and then I'm done with it. But yeah, I can appreciate when a car looks particularly nice. So I mean. The same. I mean, I grew up a little bit later, but in the 80s, still there was. I mean, this car was very prevalent, and as a kid, you love everything that has wheels, right? So then maybe the F40 Ferrari was big. There was this particular Jaguar which I really liked.
But the E-Type,
Yeah,
probably.
yeah. The first one that was really very curvy and
Yeah, it's the E-Type. Yeah.
so that was very interesting. And
But I mean, the thing is, if you click on that Honda there, oh, sorry, I'm not that. It's right in the middle,
which one?
and then
This one?
left one more, down that one, yeah. So
A
this
Toyota.
is sorry, Toyota 2000 GT, which was their response, I think, to the E-Type, the Jaguar. It was around that time, and that's their response. And I mean, I can go into car design for the longest time, but I just, it moves me, and but the reason why I haven't done really, you don't see me do any real car design.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
Because okay, this is just my thing, but for me to do a successful car design, it needs to take time, and it really is a lot of I can appreciate it, but it's a lot of hard work, and I really don't want to murder some car icon that I love and start putting crap on it.
Yeah.
I just don't want to do that. And for me to come up with a completely original car design is very difficult.
Yeah,
and
that's incredibly difficult.
For some reason, I don't feel any need, but I'll take the car shapes. Maybe I'll put it to a spaceship.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
it's something completely different, like the ship I'm doing now. I can kind of infuse some of that thinking in it, but I don't want to just do a car because I feel like I honestly don't know that I have the time or the expertise to do a real ID car that I really like. That makes any sense. And I feel like if I incorporate some of those theories into other areas, because I'll compare it to a Porsche 911, I'm like,
nah.
It's an icon. Can't beat that.
Yeah, it's
what
impossible.
am I going to do? Slap some more stuff on it and call it 9? I can't. You change a curve, it's no longer a 911. And most people would consider it a sacrilege, to take such an iconic thing and just chop it up, I just refrain,
Yeah. Is there any last thing you wanna touch on?
Yeah, I mean, go to design architecture. The second one.
Oh, the classic.
Old. So obviously we've talked about a lot of architecture. We talk about cars. We talk about Japanese stuff. We talk about modern stuff. But for me, this is one area I go back to that gives me real feeling, because I can remember what it's like in those churches. I can remember what it feels like, what it smells like. And history to me is really interesting because of how they could build what they could at that time. And so for me, that's a huge inspirational thing. Like if you can click on the second castle on the first row.
Oh, the
down. No. Go back.
The second on the first
down
row.
Yeah, first row down, and then left one.
This one?
Yeah, click on that one. Yeah. Oh no, that's the wrong.
Oh, you mean this one here?
Yeah, that one. Yeah. So this is Pierrefonds, and this is like not that far away from Paris. But the reason why I put this in here is because I went with my mom, and we drove there, and we had lunch in the town, can't see the castle at all, and then we drove out, and then through the trees as we're driving there, you see this huge thing like way above you, like if you were on a horse back in the medieval times, that's what you would see. It's amazing, and the sheer scale of it, and just the ingenuity that they needed to build these things, made me also learn how castle design works. Why things are the way they are. Just a simple thing is like, why do steps get narrower? They did that on a purpose. Why did they have different angles? Because better for you to fight, as you're going up, if people are invading you. There's a lot of castle design that it's not just putting because a lot of people have a lot of spikes and spears and things, and then that's a cool castle. But you really think about how to make an interesting castle. There's a reason for what it is. It's supposed to shield you from arrows and catapults, and how does it work? And so that's why I put this in here, because it's actually really inspirational. How did they come up with it? If you can go back one.
Right.
So you look at I look at a lot of cross-section books. Because I want to see what's in there, and this is super interesting to me. You look at the pyramid, it's a pyramid, but what happens inside? Why was it done? And of course, aliens built it, or somebody built it. Who knows, right? But it's the ability to understand, at least to a certain limit, what, how, why.
Definitely.
That's what inspires me. And I think, for any successful concept designer, you have to be curious.
Definitely,
you just kind of have to be.
ask
Otherwise,
why.
What if you jump on the Mummy show and they say, hey, we need this stuff, and but we've excavated. Am I gonna
excavated
a site? You do the design on this new site, new stuff that's found. What is that new stuff?
Right.
Well, you kind of have to understand how this works. The soil, how they built in those times. Why, all that kind of stuff. So those things, if you can go back, just inspire the crap out of me. And if you can go to the third crap, just go right 4 and then down 1.
This one?
No, right 4. 1, 2, 3. Go to the right 4 squares.
Oh, here, this one,
and then down 1. And then right 1. There, click on that one. Okay, so that is it's a shot from aerial, right? But it's a castle called Chateau Gaillard, and it's in France, and it's a very, very, very early medieval castle. But what was interesting about this was that my first job, I was doing Civil War reenacting, this ironclads. But the other project was to take this castle, which is in ruins, and make it real again. And that was my job, that's all though. That's all you saw. So we went from historical accounts. I got my aunt to go there and film it and walk, everywhere. And I actually took all that and I made the castle. And man, that's just was so much fun. So a lot of the history stuff really gets me going. A lot of the sci-fi stuff, right, is cool. But I think a lot of this stuff really grounds you and brings you to a very simple design sometimes. If you go back, I have also Japanese palaces, and I have Chinese imperial palaces. These are all my influences, right?
From India as well, some stuff, some really cool stuff.
This is just, there's so much stuff there to be inspired by. This inspires me. I don't know about you. Do you definitely,
right?
Inspire you?
Yeah, and it's I have an interesting. I have there's always that question of why that of course you have to ask yourself, and that's very important. I feel like I'm always drawn to some of the more exotic things so if I see like a European castle, I'm like, I've seen these so many times. So just on a personal basis, I mean, I still look at them and research them and find them interesting, but
so what is something for you?
What do you mean?
Like what's something exotic for you that
I mean,
really
for like, this is like where I grew up. I mean, I didn't grow up in the mountains, but this is like an hour away from where I grew up. The famous,
and you know that inspired the Disney castle.
Yeah, famously, right? So, but I mean, for me, the exotic stuff is like, again, the Japanese castles, the Forbidden City, the Indian temples, or Cambodian temples, and that kind of stuff, right? That is for me just interesting, right? Interesting because it's so different from what I used to see when I grew up. I remember my parents took me to like castles, because in the area where my grandparents grew up, in the western part near France, there's a lot of old castles. It's really like they're not even like fanciful kind of things, like I would call this quite fancy, but they're really like old, like simple castles up in the mountains, and we would like see those and just go there to, I don't know, go on a tour or see them, right? And little monasteries and all these kind of things, right? That's where I grew up, right? So so it felt like, oh, I've seen this, right? And like, okay, cool. And which of course is weird, because we shouldn't really take any of these for granted, right? So we should go back and again visit those and ask why. And it's good that you say that these books are incredibly helpful. And I remember having a lot of these as kids.
Yeah, exactly.
There's
and
so
they bring
many
back
of
some kind
those.
of nostalgia.
Yeah. But I'm wondering if people these days still look at them. I see them being made, and I mean, they kind of have like Star Wars books based on that, and which is cool or whatever. But I mean, those are purely made up. So looking at those is cool, but maybe we have to go back a step to really see what the actual stuff looked like, and how
that's
it
the
worked.
Bad thing with nowadays, because everything is available as a small freaking image,
and people go like, I don't want to read all this text, right? This is boring. Like, show me a YouTube video.
It's actually the most interesting part too.
Yeah.
Tell you what happens.
Exactly. So
go back and I don't know if you have anything else there.
Not really. I just have some furniture stuff, but I think that kind of goes into the whole architecture interior thing. It's just, I don't know.
Let's just take a quick look.
Good furniture is
the Ames chair. Yeah, I debated putting this in. I was like, it's famous.
It's the most famous, I think, piece of like furniture. One of the most famous pieces of furniture ever made. I actually have one, and it's.
That is expensive.
Yeah, it's not cheap. But
it's really expensive.
At some point, I actually the what was a funny story. Like the first time I heard really about this was when I went to a design exhibition. I mean, I knew about the chair, but then I went to a design exhibition where just specifically about Eames and everything they have done, because they are not only furniture designers, but they're like multidisciplinary. And there's a great documentary out there about the couple. It's not just him or her. It's a couple that work together, and this is their house, which is now a museum. And they're really. I mean, it's a really inspirational story about their design practice and their approach to design and art. And they're all. I think the movie is called The Architect and the Painter. And they also did like a little
documentary. Is it?
Yeah, it's a documentary. And they also produced like little movies, like The Power of 10 is made by them. So it's a great example for multidisciplinary creatives that are not like they're not confined to one medium. And I feel like that's something I want to strive towards, and so a reminder that even though maybe this is like the thing that everybody knows them for, that they themselves don't want to be defined by that. There was, I mean, I met and then I did more research into the company and themselves, and well, I got around to actually buying one of their pieces, and I mean, it's a personal thing. Yeah, it's expensive, but I mean, you kind of have to. I feel like I have to get away from always buying disposable furniture from IKEA. Yes, it's cheap, but I mean, once you move once, you can basically throw it away, and that is not really a good attitude towards like the environment and everything. So
yeah, for a lot of those people watching, I think they, these chairs. If you go back one, I'll finish my point. And go to the Philippe Stark folder. They are surprisingly, I mean, they look frou-frou and like, oh, it's designy chair, and it's just sits there. They're really made with good design, and they're comfortable.
Yeah, and they're built to last.
And they last.
This stuff you can give to your kids, because
if you sit on, can you click on that chair, the second one? Yeah. So this is Philippe Stark, one of his most famous chairs. And Philippe Stark is an industrial designer, basically, known for actually the juicer that I have on the other page. But this chair, I showed you on the photography episode, my dad had this boat and he made into a club. So it was he had all these Philippe Stark chairs, and it looks like this uncomfortable high heaven thing. Like you wouldn't want to sit on it, but you sit on it, I was like, wow, this is really comfortable. Like he really thought about it. And he had it's like, you don't understand how much thought it takes to make this. And the craftsmanship.
Exactly.
Like
right.
that Ames chair, the craftsmanship is impeccable. It's like buying like a Louis Vuitton bag or suitcase or something. There is craftsmanship in there, and that's why it costs so much.
There's it's interesting, right? So there's the whole discussion about is design worth it, right? Is like, I mean, of course, yes, you can buy a Honda or you can buy a Porsche, right? Both will kind of perform the same function. I mean, but then why do people still buy a Porsche, right? Is it just purely because they can afford it or they want to show off? I mean, yeah, sure, there's some of that, right? But there's also a point about appreciating the craftsmanship and understanding what makes a product desirable and good, right? So to me, there's this point about, I mean, we want to be designers. We want people to pay a premium for our services, right? But if all you, I mean, again, there's a point about, yes, this is expensive, and why should I spend $1,000 on a chair? Why should I spend $5,000 on a chair if I can just get one for $100 from IKEA, right? But and so a lot of people don't have that possibility, but maybe just go to a furniture store and sit in it. I don't know. I think there is a point about experiencing it. Again, you don't need to buy it, but maybe there's a chance you can experience it in a store, or you can, I mean, nobody's stopping you to go to a car dealership and really have a close look at some really nice cars, right? But
but for a car, it's like, it's not only is the appreciation of the look of
the
it,
performance,
but you have to experience it. Yeah. So the way it drives.
Maybe a chair is easier to sit down, right?
Yeah, but you can rent the car for
exactly, right?
That's okay. I mean, I'm all for that, but this is where I agree with you totally, because I feel like good design needs support. If nobody was to buy that thing, then good design is out the window, because they wouldn't make it. They couldn't sustain a living.
So, but that is also true, right? But so in a way that, okay, you want to get paid premium, then maybe you should think about So what is it that these companies do that commands a premium? I think if you want to really be a high-end designer and charge a lot of money, then I think it's helpful for you to understand what other designers are doing, whether that is in a product that they sell, whether that is in a piece of furniture, maybe that is even because I like audio equipment, right? So you can spend an ungodly amount of money on premium audio hi-fi equipment, but then so why should I do that if I can just buy like a Sonos speaker and then plays the same music, right? But I think it's good to understand, what do they do in terms of materials, what do they do in terms of marketing, what do they do in terms of packaging, right? How are these made? Why are these made the way they are, right? And it's interesting to look at those premium products to see what they are doing differently, that sets them apart. And I mean, are they really doing something different that really benefits the user? I mean, a lot of them actually do, right? So it's interesting to analyze that kind of stuff from a design perspective, right?
I think
Even if you don't agree, even if you don't like the design of it, right? Again, like it's still worth looking at it and analyzing it. So I mean, that's kind of the point I wanted to drive.
I know. I think it's actually a really. I love it. I love that, and I just think that it's one of those things where people are around good design and they don't really sometimes look deeper to appreciate what it's really giving you. I mean, a lot of people are driving the 911 or sitting on an Ames chair because they can.
Yeah. Of course.
Versus really understanding where it came from, who designed it, why this car or this chair or whatever thing that you like, or the headphones, like why is it something important and why is it giving you more of what you want for what you're paying for it, and I think it's just, and take all that and then now you're the designer. How do you put something, I mean, granted you're not doing industrial design that is going to be built,
but the idea is the same, no? The thought process.
It is, how do you take that thought process, albeit a lot faster?
Yeah. No, but it's
because you know how it is.
Yeah.
Give me sketches tomorrow,
yeah.
kind of thing.
And
but I mean,
exactly. So with that, I think we're going to wrap it up because we all have sketches to hand in tomorrow or God knows what. But anyway, I thought we hope that this was helpful for some of you, so that we share some of the ideas and the thought processes that go behind this. So, and before I'm getting a lot of flack for buying expensive furniture, let's wrap this episode up. And again, if you guys enjoyed this episode, please like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know what you want to see in the following episodes. We still have a lot to go through for our inspiration series, so please keep on looking out for that. And thanks so much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.